Hello everyone and welcome to another video. My name is Lance and this is going to be a pretty long one, so let me just quickly give you all the context I'd like you to have before we get into this. In my previous video I showed the once planned locations for Dark Souls 3's storytelling epitaphs, and I mentioned that apart from the first 4, no others had anything more than placeholder text associated with them. However, in the wake of that claim, SanadSK dug into the Japanese retail version of Dark Souls 3 and found an entirely unused database of completed epitaph texts. I won't go into too much detail on the technical side of what I did after he'd shared this discovery with me. I might save that for a behind the scenes type video in the future, but for now, I'm extremely proud to be able to present to you, after far more work than you can possibly imagine, all of Dark Souls 3's epitaph texts, to the best of my technical ability, fully restored and working in-game. In the Undead Settlement, the first epitaph is in this watery ravine up against a high wall. An obsessive longing toward the high walls. After a dedicated life, will the pilgrim's soul ever reach the top? The second and last epitaph for the Undead Settlement is in the graveyard that's under assault from a giant archer. Praise the archer. From the sky it comes and stabs into those who ignore these teachings. The next logical epitaphs are found in the Cathedral of the Deep, the first one here looking out at the distant bridge. Grave of a renowned priest. He asked for death, a fool who gives up on life. Once inside the cathedral, we eventually find another in the room where we encounter a deep accursed. The whip of death kicks up dust, the beast's blood rising. Heaven did not grant death to the pilgrim. And the final epitaph for this area is on the path towards Rosaria's bedchamber. Do not be afraid, death is not lonely. Our thoughts combine, they will meld together. We will continue to live on as one. Just one epitaph was planned for the Road of Sacrifices, assumedly just before descending into Farron Keep, but in the files I have access to, was never physically placed anywhere in the map. Fear the water, the devil's whispers tell the end of the pilgrimage. In the swamp of Farron Keep we find 3 epitaphs clustered close together here. Those who are lost shall look to the fire. Its bright flame will be a signpost for the pilgrim. Poison erodes the body endlessly, like the ceaseless torment of hell's persecution. The soul drain. Is there redemption for the soul that was taken by the abyss? Another is out surrounded by a few statues. This pilgrim was visited by frustration. The prayers of the beasts became shackles upon one's legs. Placed up on a small mound we find this one. Such a horrible, savage tribe. A pilgrim driven away by the demon hunter. Out in the swamp, just next to a chest. An offering to an unknown pilgrim, my proof of life. Nestled in a nearby corner from that last one. Grave of a foolish man, wandered in search of the fortress. Hopes unfulfilled, does such a fortress not exist? Once again, in an otherwise unspectacular part of the map. An unmoving body. In your sleep came death's embrace, a curse upon your foolishness. Nearby one of the fonts which, unlike the final game, actually need to be lit rather than extinguished in the alpha. An offering of flame. It is the way to open the Fortress of the Immortal. Just beside the large door that will eventually open when all 3 flames have been offered. Grave of a nameless warrior. Fear the ancient wolf and the immortal army. Up on a ridge along the way to the Abyss Watchers among some trees. Grave of a brave army. A man who fights the Abyss will die with a dull blade. Travelling from here towards the boss arena, you can see the next epitaph above our character's head. It disappears as we get close, but it can still be interacted with. Let this tomb stand as a reminder for the courage and dedication of our leader, who died unnecessarily. Moving beyond Farron Keep and into the Catacombs of Carthus, things get really rough, but I was able to piece enough together to at least approach and activate the epitaphs here. The first one, based on what I can tell here, is off to the left just a little before we reach the large staircase down which a skeleton ball will chase us later. Keep an eye out. The demon will be hiding in the darkness. The next one is found after we've descended the staircase and gone a little deeper into the catacombs. Listen carefully. Hear the silence of the dead that still resonates here. And further into the catacombs, directly in line with the staircase but much further in, we find the final epitaph for the catacombs. Thunder of God, neither holy nor wicked, a double-edged sword that penetrates without prejudice. Unfortunately, beyond the catacombs we do still find the demon ruins in the alpha, but with the amount of data I have, I'm not able to get to the areas where the epitaphs are found. So please enjoy this footage of me stumbling around the alpha demon ruins as I read out the 2 epitaphs from this area. Grave of a fool. The thoughtless interlopers are cleansed by rapturous fire. Grave of a nameless explorer. The light of heaven that I seek has faded, the path obscured by the labyrinth. Thankfully, from here on, things get a lot better. Moving on to Arathor of the Boreal Valley, the first epitaph is in this small nook, which in the alpha is inhabited by some invisible enemies. Feel the light. Even though the figure cannot be seen, the eyes of the dead are upon you from everywhere. Next is in this dark area, which is also typically filled with unseen creatures. Grave of a nameless people. We will not forget the glory that is the shining city of the sun. An epitaph is placed against the windows in the painting room. With my thoughts and with my paintings, death will be welcomed. In the field filled with giants after defeating the boss of this area, do not come near the giants, do not make noise, keep silent, and through this, survival. Heading into the rafters above the boss fight arena, we find an epitaph that is an obvious reference to the enemy we had just defeated below. The sword to the right shreds the body, and the sword to the left slices the soul. To where will those who are destroyed be sent? Down in the waterways hidden below Arathor? The gaping maw of the abyss chews on the body and the soul. To where will that spirit flow? In the hidden Dark Moon tomb just before reaching Anor Londo comes the final epitaph of this map. Alongside the Dark Moon's mission, I will become the sword that hunts the enemies of God. Moving in the other direction now and down into Irithyll Dungeon, the first epitaph is found at the end of one of the upper walkways. It was neither a human nor a dragon. In sadness he danced to the royal family. Here he sleeps. In the room that is typically home to 2 giant rats in the final game. Numb to the pain that slowly eats away at the body, is there any hope for those who fail? Further along and outside on the path to the profaned capital, praise the dragon. If you seek a way to the king, do not fall down in the middle of the path. Just by the feet of Irithyll's giant prisoner, a man who did seek the throne, here he sleeps. The admission of blood was not to be. And the last for this map, in the area to the right of the boss gate for the profaned capital, Predator of the Soul. The lost soul was swallowed by the abyss. Heading into Lothric Castle, the first epitaph is just past these 2 knights. Grave of a nameless soldier, that sword for the prince. Where I had previously shown twin epitaphs in the place usually inhabited by a drake, I'm fairly confident now in saying that was the result of a red herring placed by the developers, and that this is closer to the intended layout. Fear the Knight, loyalty beyond death to the undying king. Just past the Outrider Knight in the Grand Archives. Ruthless death, thy breath is cold. Despite all of that, it is a renowned knight. And finally, the last epitaph of the game, high above the Grand Archives and overlooking the Twin Princes Arena. Accept blood. It is for the good of the long-damned royal family. And with that, we've covered, to varying degrees, all 46 epitaphs that were ever written for Dark Souls 3. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for sticking with me. I can't overstate how much work it took for me to get this video to you, and how lucky we are that SanadSK took the time to dig into the Japanese version of Dark Souls 3 to discover the text for the epitaphs, which made all the work here really worth it. I'm also thankful to Loki for letting me see his translation of the epitaph texts, which provided some context for me to make some changes to my interpretation of them. I hope you managed to enjoy this video, and I'd love to hear from others in the comments about what some of these might have once suggested for Dark Souls 3's lore. If you did enjoy this video, feel free to let me know by hitting the like button, and if you haven't already, do subscribe to keep up with my work here. You can find more ways to follow and support my work in the description, and either way, thank you for watching, I'll see you next time.